the Sealey Show. It's the Sealey Show. We're better if you need to know. Spread the word, it's the Sealey. What? It's the Sealey Show.
Yo people, what's happening? It's your boy Sealey. Welcome back to the Sealey Show, Season 2. We're out here. So today we're in London. We're gonna catch up with one of the biggest directors, music directors and producers. She's worked with some of the biggest artists around the world and the UK especially. So yeah man, let's go check her out. So you just come alive, bro. I just said to the action, that's it. What's happening?
Not much, same old. You? How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Gabriella Kingsley, obviously, I've only actually just been introduced to you, you know, because I'm not really like, obviously I'm in that space, but I'm not behind the scenes, innit? So my video guy, he's not gonna like me for saying this, but I was like, yeah, we're getting Gabby on, you know, like, Gabriella Kingsley, he's like, Gabriella Kingsley, yeah. Well, like, you know, she did Peru. So he was very excited, innit? So then I was like, oh, okay, I better like do some research there and see what's happening. But thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously you're our first lady, woman.
First of many.
First of many.
First of many.
So thank you for coming on. Obviously we've got a lot to talk about, a lot to cover, because I think what you're doing, obviously doing my research, like this conversation is quite pivotal, do you know what I'm saying? Especially for the position you're in. But with everyone, we always go back to the start. It's a lovely home, by the way.
Thank you.
So it should be easier to bring memories back.
Be comfy.
Yeah, be comfy.
Get comfortable.
100%. How did it all start for you in terms of upbringing, school life?
So I was born in London, Northwest, lived here my whole life. I was fortunate enough that my parents put me in private schools, so stayed out of trouble when I was younger. I think like the worst thing I ever did, I like bunked one day of school and like my parents literally like wanted to kill me. So pretty good. Challenging being in private school, being at like an all girls school. I was like probably one of like 5 people of colour in like my whole school.
Okay.
And also I was like, I've always been like a bit of a tomboy, I guess. And like when you go to those kind of schools, I didn't have uniform at my school either. So like all the girls would always be like trying to come in like their little juicy couture tracksuits and their designer handbags. And I was always like just in tracksuits.
Yeah.
Like, but I was like really sporty when I was young. So I feel like the popular kids accepted me because I was sporty.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't sporty, I probably would have been a bit of a loser. But so went there for secondary school and then went to college, Fine Arts College, which is like an arts college, and studied photography, graphic design, art, media, and I also did psychology, but I dropped it. And and then I left. I thought I had a plan. Everyone went off to uni. I was like set on the fact that I wanted to do fashion. Right. So I thought, whilst everyone goes to uni for 3 years, I'm gonna like get experience, because I was just always a strong believer that like unless you were kind of going to uni for, you know, like law or medicine or something like that, I didn't really feel the need to. Right, and also at that time as well, I was already living like on my own, so I kind of felt like I wasn't craving the uni life, like living away from home and like things like that. So I spent time, I left, I started going into like designing for like fashion houses and stuff, like internships and things like that. Then I started working in retail, and then unfortunately my dad passed when I was 19. Okay. And then I didn't work for ages, I'd probably say like 8 to 9 months. And then I finally went back to work, but I was just kind of like a bit miserable, just getting by. It obviously like threw me off like my whole plan. And then just before I turned 21, I made the decision that I wanted to leave London. So I packed up my bags, I left London for 3 months and I moved to America.
Just off the whim like that, off the bat?
Yeah, like I just feel like I was always a really bubbly, like social person. And then I feel like after I lost him, I became really introverted. And even though I've always like loved my own space, it's like, I just wasn't the same basically. And I just kind of felt like I needed to leave and just like be away from everything that like I know and just like learn to have fun again. Because I was, like I said, I was only 21 and like, that's what you're supposed to be doing at 21. You know what I mean? Even though obviously like uni and jobs and all that type of stuff, like you're supposed to be enjoying yourself at that age. And I just felt like I'd really like lost myself.
Yeah.
So I did that, had a whale of a time.
Whereabouts in America did you go?
Miami, so it was great.
Crazy.
And then whilst I was actually out in Miami, a friend of mine who was a director, he was flying out to shoot a music video out there for Sean Paul and Fuse ODG. And he was just like, oh, like come down to set, like it would be just like cool for you to like just see it.
So
and
this is like no inkling that you're going into that field at all?
None.
No
like,
way.
No idea. And he was just like, yeah, like come down, like see it. And he was also like, not like, we haven't been, like he had come with Fuse. So he was like, we haven't been before. Like you can tell us like where to go and stuff because we're here for a couple of days. So I was like, yeah, like why not? So I literally went down to set and that was like the first day, like I just fell in love with like the whole atmosphere and like everything of it, like seeing his video treatment and then like watching like the whole process and like how it was going to come together. And yeah, like I just loved it and just like the energy, like the fast pace of it. Like obviously as well, we were shooting in Miami, so it was such like a beautiful set, all the costumes and designs and like everything. So yeah, so that was kind of like my first spark for interest in film. And then he obviously left, I did like my time and we kept talking. I came back to London, I went back into fashion. But I was still just like really intrigued. So I just started like doing research, watching YouTube videos, kind of like trying to understand, I guess, how you'd get into it. But with like our industry, I feel like it's quite difficult because there's not really like a blueprint for it, you know?
Yeah.
It's not, like I said, you know, when you do like law, you go school, then you go uni, and then you go off and you do your LPCs and then your training contracts. You know, like it's really structured. With our industry, it's like you just got to figure it out.
Literally,
And then, yeah, like I said, I kept in touch with him. And then he actually wanted to open a really small production company to run his work through. And he approached me and he was just like, look, like he was quite introverted. So he was like, look, like you're really good with like people, la la la. He was like, why don't you come and help me run the company? You deal with like clients and like the production side and like I'll do the directing side.
Out there or here?
Here. Okay. So he was based here. He had just flown out there for that job.
Right. With you, okay.
So yeah, so at the time, I was a manager in Victoria's Secret, and I just thought I can kind of come back to that whenever I want, type of thing. Like, I'd worked enough years in like retail and things like that, and it was never my plan to stay in retail. Like I said, I'd had a whole plan that I wanted to have like a fashion line and all of this, but it didn't happen. So I was like, you know what? If there's ever a time to try new stuff, like it's now. So I literally left. Helped him start running the company, started working in production, and then really quickly I kind of like subconsciously started directing. So like briefs would come in and then I'd be like throwing ideas for treatments, helping him put together treatments because I did graphic design.
Can I just stop you there, just quickly, because it is one of my questions, but like you've come to it now. What is the difference between directing and producing?
Okay, so a director's job is you get a brief, or which is like, let's say from a record label, or just directly from a client, which will send you the song, and then it will send you like any ideas or like visions that they had for the video. Sometimes people have like more clear concepts, sometimes people don't have a clue. And then a director's job is literally to come up with the idea. Right. So like imagine it like a PDF kind of treatment or like a little PowerPoint presentation.
Right. From their brief.
Yeah. And then, you basically explain what you see for your vision in that presentation, right? Which is called a treatment. And then obviously if it goes through and it gets signed off and things like that and everyone's happy, then as a director, I would hire a producer to produce my music video. So then a producer's job is to take my treatment and basically find everything for the video. So locations, models, like props, if they're set builds, like whatever it is. It's their job to basically literally go through that treatment, start listing out everything that's going to be needed, and then go out and source it, right? And then obviously from sourcing it, they'd run everything through the director. So for example, if they're picking models, they'd like send me a PDF file with, I don't know, 20 girls on it and be like, pick your top 2 that like I like the look of, or the client likes the look of, depending on how involved the client likes to be. So yeah, that's the difference. And then on the day of shooting, my job is basically to make sure my vision comes to life, get the right shots that I want. If I do want to like tweak or try anything, I have the option to do so. And my producer's literally just there to support me and make sure that like everything that's been booked turns up. Like if there's any overtime, people get overtime fees sorted and like things like that. So like they're more like the logistical side of it, and then the director's the creative side of it. If that makes sense.
There you have it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That answer your question?
Yeah.
What was I saying? So I started in production, slowly started like basically directing without realizing that I'm doing it, helping write treatments on set. I started putting like my creative like input into things, telling him, oh, you should try this, da. And then he actually turned around to me and he was like, why don't you just direct? And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, like, why don't you do it? And at the time, especially in like that music world, like the hip hop kind of UK hip hop world, there were like no female directors.
Yeah.
I think the only person out there at the time that was kind of like really doing her thing is a lady called Carly Cusson, who's kind of like OG in music videos. But like, bar that, like there wasn't really anyone. So I was a bit hesitant, but also at the same time, I was like, I've always just been a really big believer is like, try it.
Yeah,
it either works or it doesn't work,
Facts,
you know?
Yeah.
And to be fair, like he gave me a lot of confidence to make me feel like I could do it, because he was like, you've been doing it just without kind of the label of it. And at the time as well, he was actually trying to step away a bit from directing because he wanted to go more into like music management and things like that.
Okay.
So I, in a way, got very fortunate because he had a client base. So his idea was, okay, this is how we're going to get you into directing. Like, I'm going to get a brief. You're going to write the whole idea. We're going to pitch it, but I'm going to put both of our names on it, just so that there's a name on it that they like trust. And then like, if we win the video, on the day I'm going to let you take reins. But again, like, we'll just put our names on it to keep the clients happy, but it will basically give you a way in type of thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, amazing. So we did it. My first ever music video was Krypton Conan Falling.
You directed that?
Yeah. So like
cold. Video's cold.
pretty like amazing first ever client, obviously. And
That's
like,
mad.
you know, they were really like doing their like thing consistently then. Like it was proper at like a peak for them. And yeah, so did that, went through, video went great, came out amazing. They actually ended up coming back a few weeks later because they'd shot like a video in America that they weren't happy with. And they asked me to do it and then did that. And then from then it was just like I said at the beginning, he was kind of like, I guess, like filtering me clients. And then slowly I just kind of went off on my own and
we'll get into all that.
etc. But yeah, so that's how I started. So it's not your average journey in. Like a lot of people come from photography or they come from self-shooting, directing. I literally like did a leap onto film cameras, you know? But so different.
Even with that though, sorry to stop you there, even with that, like the guy who brought you in, say, so to speak, he must have seen something in you though.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. I think he saw the fact that I had all the tools. So like one thing that I ask myself all the time as like I've gotten older is like, why did I never know I wanted to do this? Because I love it. Why did I not know I wanted to do it?
Mad.
And then like the more I kept thinking about it, I thought it's because I didn't know it was an option.
Right.
Like you as a boy, you might sit at home and you're watching football on the telly with your dad.
Yeah.
And you see a guy that looks like you running across the TV and you're like, oh, that's what I want to be when I'm older.
100%.
We don't have anything like that for like women in film. And like even when directors were talked about, it was normally like white older men, like the Steven Spielbergs and like all this kind of stuff. So I guess I didn't even register that it could be a possibility. And then when you actually look at my history, I took photography, I took graphic design, I took media. So they're all things that you should be taking to be a director, but it was just never remotely on my radar, which is why now as well, like it's really important for me. Like I do a lot of work with like charities, like panel talks, like all that kind of stuff with, well, like younger generation of like filmmakers, but also a lot with like women, because for me it's important for them to realize that like it's an option 100%. If you want to do it, you know, because I didn't have that. And I could have started earlier. I don't know. I mean, obviously everything happens for a reason. I'm grateful I'm here and where I am, but you don't know, you know. So
100. And yeah, it's mad. I knew this was gonna be one of those conversations where I just had like loads of questions, you know.
Hit me.
Because because of what you're saying, like it's important for young women out there to look and go, oh, she's done it. That means I can do it. Like you said, you took all the subjects leading up to this, just didn't know it was a possibility. Do you know what I'm saying? Until obviously the gentleman he was working with said, he kind of just threw it on you and then you've kind of just accepted it and ran with it. Do you know what I'm saying? So before obviously we go into like, the artists and so on, did you have a general passion for music or?
Yeah, like I've always been into like I feel like music and fashion have always had this like love affair in itself 100%, anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I always loved music. I love all types of music. Like literally, my friends laugh at me all the time because sometimes like my Spotify playlist will be playing like the most random stuff will come up and they'll be like, "Why have you got this on your playlist?" But like I love like loads of different. I dabble sometimes in things like country music, soul, jazz, like hip hop, R&B, dancehall, like literally anything. Like I just like what I like. I've never been a person that like, I don't have a favorite artist or like I'm not like a massive fan of anyone really.
Yeah.
And like I really rarely listen to like albums.
Okay.
But I just like what I like.
Yeah.
Like if something sounds good to me or like lyrics like hit home for me, I just like it, you know? So like that's what I'm saying, like when you look through my playlist sometimes, like obviously you get all the like obvious artists, but you also get so many like just random songs that like I'll just find and I'll be like, oh, I just like that. You know what I mean?
So you got a general passion for it then?
Yeah,
definitely.
like I enjoy it. And like I said, I think that original affair between music and fashion has always been influential on each other anyway. So that's actually kind of where I want to take my career next, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, of course. So, got to pause that for a second. Have you not subscribed yet? The Sealey Network. Stop being tight. Just subscribe. Back to the episode. Okay, so you get off, you go to Miami, just literally off a whim. So you meet a gentleman out there. Did you meet him out there? Or did
No, I knew him previously.
You knew him,
from
so you knew him before? You knew him before, okay.
Yeah.
So he comes out.
Yeah.
You see the experience, you see the setup, and you're like, yeah, this is me. Obviously, fast forward, things are going along. Now we told you to direct. Your first video was Correct on Corona and Fallen, which they came back, so it couldn't have been that bad. It wasn't that bad, obviously. Now I've seen like since then like Tory Lanes
Production.
So that's you working with a different director then?
So I directed for a couple years, then I picked back up producing.
Why did you do that?
I had like a couple close director friends that were really struggling finding good producers, and like I'm someone that like I love to be busy.
Right.
So like it was just one of those things where it was like, oh, I can do it, I can make more money, keep myself busy, and like production came not easy to me, but like I've always been a bit of like an organisation freak and stuff anyway.
Okay.
And like just being able to source things, and that's technically like what a producer is. So like for me, when I picked back up production, it was like I can do this and I can direct, so why not? But like I was just producing under like very selective directors that like I had relationship with. I wasn't really like opening the doors to like just produce for like anything or anyone.
Okay.
So I was doing that for a couple of years, as I said, just to keep myself busy. And then I left production behind now. So like now I only direct. Like I won't take up production jobs anymore.
I was gonna ask which one do you prefer, but
directing for sure. It's just harder. Like it's hard. Like
directing's harder than producing.
yeah, it is.
See, the way you explained it, it seems like directing's easier.
They're difficult in different ways. Like production's one of those things that's like the longer you do production, the easier it becomes because you build a database.
Right.
So if you know where you want to source a certain light or a certain lens, or you know you're working with location companies over time, you build relationships. So then eventually when a video hits your lap, oh, I need a fire breather. Oh, use one of those last year. Like I know like what company to call. Like you know what I mean? And you pick those up and you find out where things are cheapest, because that's a producer's job as well. Try like obviously keep things within budget and keep costs down as much as possible. But the longer you do that, it's just more, like I said, it's an organisation tool, number one, and number two, like just building your database. So like it's difficult at the beginning, but then once you start doing it and you do a few shoots and you meet people and you network, and like I say, you start to figure out. Also, you've got the internet now, you've got Google. Yeah, all you've got to do, like I was speaking to one of my friends who's a producer, and this is actually in America, and he was like, oh yeah, we need a mermaid. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, like we need a mermaid. I was like, where are you going to get a mermaid? He was like, oh, I used one like 6 years ago in a shoot. So he was like, I know what company to call. So like, it becomes, like I said, the longer you do it, it just becomes, picking up the phone, making the phone calls, like being organised and booking things in. Being a director, the reason why it's more challenging is that you continuously have to keep being creative. So yeah, I get songs sometimes, and it's not because I don't love the song, but an idea doesn't necessarily always just come to you. If you're not in the right frame of mind, like to be creative as well, like it can stunt you. Sometimes I listen to a song and straight away it's like boom, and like I can write a video treatment in a couple hours. Sometimes I can spend days sitting on a song because maybe I'm not in the right headspace, or like, you know, it can be anything.
Do you get creative block?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's like, it's a normal thing for anyone in like any creative industry, you know? Like, definitely have days where I'll sit there. Like, I like to like try sit, shut my eyes, listen to a song, and then like picture in my head what I would see. And sometimes it doesn't work like that. Or sometimes someone will have quite a specific brief when they send in the song, and it's completely opposite to what you probably would have like gone with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then you have to start trying to adapt around that idea, or like, how can I take that idea and put a twist on it or put a flair on it to make it more me and like my style, and like make it more original. And then that's another thing as well, being a director. Like, how do I now start creating visuals that stand out and don't look like everything that you see, because then like it gets boring, which is another reason why if you look across my catalogue of work, I don't really tend to do like drill. Reason why I don't do drill is because I don't really want to do the on the block or like the flash cars and the girls shaking like their ass and stuff. Like, it's just not me. And for me, that doesn't allow me to be creative. Like not anyone can do that, because obviously there are a lot of directors in the UK that do it better than others, but like, it's a very like stunt on the allowance to be creative, if that makes sense. So that's why I think directing's harder.
Or maybe a drill tune might fall in your lap, and the artist might.
I'm waiting for it. Go on. And the artist might.
Oh no, it might be different.
Yeah, no. Listen, that's what I'm saying. I would never say never, but I'm saying, like, I get emails and stuff all the time for those type of briefs, and they're just not something that I like to take on as a job. It's a preference thing, you know what I mean?
I hear you.
Also, like, I am a woman, and like, I don't want to go to set with like 100 man on set. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot.
You want Gabby to direct the thing, soften it up. You know what I'm saying?
So yeah.
Okay. Now that makes sense. So, the artists you've worked with, I'm not going to lie, I didn't write a list of them.
Okay.
I did read them. I'm not going to lie to you. I just seen the names and I thought, I want you to actually speak about them.
Okay. Well, What do you want me to say?
So from like Captain Conan onwards, because
Yeah.
people need to hear the catalogue and people need
I've
to
been
like,
directing
hear.
for 6.5 years, you know.
Yeah, we can break it down. We can break it down. Obviously, there's some big names out there, innit? But I actually want you to like take us on a journey because it's mad. Like you say.
Okay, how about I talk about more like milestoneies or like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like notable because like
Yeah.
like you said before, yeah, there's gonna be a young girl hopefully watching this, looking at this interview and going, might open her brain to something. Do you know what I'm saying? So this is what it's about. Just kind of just showcasing what you've done.
Gosh, I hate doing stuff like this because I feel like it's so like name.
No, it's not. It's not.
So I'd say after Captain Conan, my next like big video was Dance For Me, which is You Do Mr. Easy. You know, shocky.
Oh, okay, yeah. Is that what it's called? Dance?
Dance For Me, yeah.
Oh, Dance For Me. Sorry,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, with you. Okay.
So that was a really big video, big budget, 2-day shoot.
Where was that?
We shot it in Woolwich,
Okay.
which I don't even want to talk about because it was the first time I ever got on Woolwich Ferry and it was an experience in itself. But yeah, so that was a big video, massive cast and crew. Like, I don't know, there was like 8 makeup artists on the day, like 10 stylists. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, it was huge. And then obviously that song and video itself blew up really big.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a very big turning point for Afro beats.
Yeah.
That, along with probably a couple other songs, is kind of what really made when Afrobeat started going commercial here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like a really big video. Did really, really well. And then it's so hard to even think or like put it on a timeline. I did some work with Dappy.
Mm-hmm.
When he was kind of doing his solo stuff. So like that was cool to work with him because that was like also like my childhood, do you know what I mean? Like end-ups.
Yeah.
And like all of that.
Do you ever find yourself like fangirling out or?
No. There's no one that I've worked with. Like that's what I'm saying, is in like I've never been like a super fan of artists. I think the only person that I meet that I'll fangirl over is Beyonce.
I had a feeling she was gonna come up.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, she's the GOAT.
Yeah, like if I met her, oh, you know what it is? It's not even because of her music. I don't actually listen to her music that much.
Do you not?
No.
Okay.
I just think it's more so, I think what she has stood for and like what her music stands for, like women empowerment and things like that. Like, you can imagine how many women around the world she's like helped. 100%. I know that sounds like crazy, but like music helps a lot of people in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And like, because her music is so like women driven, like I think that in itself is a really like powerful statement.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just like, if you ever watch any of her documentaries and things like that, like she's really involved with like all her creative process and like things like that. And just like even talking about her music videos, like all her music videos are like so epic, like visuals are like insane. Like, she's just sick in it. And
it's mad. With all that she does, I feel like she just comes across really genuine as well.
I mean, I've never met her, and working in this industry, you can never know.
Oh,
but
really?
Yes, I agree with you. She does come across like she seems very genuine. And I would love to meet her. I'd love to work with her. One day, fingers crossed, it will happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just think, and like just even when you watch her live and stuff, like to see her talent, to be able to sing and dance and like not run out of breath, I'm like, you just got to give like flowers where flowers are due. Do you know what I mean? 100. So she's the only person that I think, and like I was a massive Destiny Child fan as well when I was younger. So I think she's the only person that if I met, I reckon I'd like fangirl over. But even that, I think I'd be like more excited than anything. I don't think like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd probably just be like, I want to pick your brain and like, I want to talk to you and like, you know, rather
100.
than being starstruck.
So good insight. So good insight. So you mentioned you're a fan of Destiny's Child. I'm thinking, I wonder what your favourite Destiny's Child song is.
Oh, I don't know. That's really hard. They've got so many. They've got
Not
bangers,
really.
bro.
You're not really a fan then.
Huh? No,
Not
I
really
am a fan, but I'm saying as in like they've got so many good songs.
Okay, give me like top 5.
Okay, Bills, Survivor.
No.
What?
No.
Are you joking? Like they're in the jungle,
Yeah,
like
I
they've
know,
got all
but
the outfits going
It's not
on,
one.
like
It's
do
not
you know
one
what I
of their
mean?
Actually, okay, yeah, go on.
Are you joking?
It might be. Now I'm thinking of it because
Come
I
on.
might be mixing that Beyonce.
Was that not like?
It was a banger, but I might
I
be
feel like
mixing
that was one of their biggest hit singles. It must have
Yeah,
been.
it was. But I'm thinking I might be mixing that Beyonce with Destiny Child. Go on. All right. So Bill's Survivor.
Bill, Survivor, Say My Name.
You just take them off the radio.
What do you mean? I'm taking them off the radio.
just
Oh,
take
as in
them
like
from-
you want me to do like back catalogue?
No, you just picked all the commercial ones, but these are your
Yeah, but
favorites, isn't it? So all right, cool.
They're the biggest for a reason, though, right?
I guess, yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Also, like, I was a massive Destiny's Child fan, but I was a kid.
Oh, okay, cool.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you're young like that, you're so like impressionable. So yeah, so after Dance With Me, did some bits with Dappies. That was like my childhood. Did some really cool stuff in production. So we did like a video for D Block Europe and Offset, which was like all puppets. So that was like cool. Tried to source puppets as well in like 48 hours, like it was mental. And also I just never thought I'd like help shoot a music video that was puppets. Like
Yeah. Sorry, now you've mentioned it, I've actually got a question. So, like, were they not there at all?
No. So it was like a bunch of girls, but like they were puppets.
Okay. So has that ever, because you know like there's times where a song's getting made and someone just like sends their verse like halfway across the country, the verse comes back, they're never actually in the same studio. Apart from that, you have to do a video where like they're actually not both there, and how and
it does happen often with artists.
Okay. Is it difficult?
Yeah, it's hard, but again, it's just another like pocket of like having to be creative and like figure out ways to make it look good so it doesn't feel so separated. In that instance, it was actually, you know, like the plug. The plug?
The program?
No, as in like the like label, the plug, and they've got like the weed shops and stuff.
No.
Okay. So it was like their collaboration. So like they had made, I think, like a mixtape or an album, and they were putting like UK and US artists and stuff together. And it happens often. Like obviously, artist schedules are different. People are on tour. People have their own projects going on. Like sometimes it's not always possible. So yeah, like it's difficult, but there's so many ways of doing it. You've got green screen, which kind of is normally a lot of people's kind of like easy opt out. And yeah, like it's got to be done sometimes. You know, it's not ideal because I think an audience always connects so much better with a video when you can see the artists together, like vibing together. But unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't always happen. Well, that's why you see sometimes like people have collaborations and you don't see either artist in the video, and it will just be like a narrative storyline with like actors or whatever. So like there's always ways of doing it to try kind of like mask feeling so separated. But of course, it's just more challenging than when you get to have artists together.
Cool. So yeah, carry on.
Oh yeah. So that was a cool experience. And then, yeah, like traveling with my job's been cool. I've been able to travel like all over the place. I've actually just like, I feel like I've had like a mind blank. It's really difficult to think of like 6.5 years.
All right, we're just going to get to the one that everyone wants to know about then. Seeing as you're not going to say it because you're being humble.
Okay, we're here. So end of last year.
Yeah.
Peru.
Yeah.
Big deal, obviously. Ed Sheeran's like the most streamed artist in the world. So yeah, that came.
Are you watching now? Look. He's zooming in now.
We shot majority of it in New York because Fireboy couldn't get to London. And,
can you take us to the whole beginning of it? Sorry.
Oh, okay.
You probably like told like 1,000 people this like 1,000 times, but
to the beginning of it.
Yeah, like how does it all come together? Like the first call, like that like first moment where you're like, it's just a wind up.
I have to tell you the shortened version because I actually can't talk about all of it.
Ah, fair enough. Okay.
But the long story short is, the A&R that actually put that record together.
Yeah.
Is a friend of mine.
Okay.
And he got me in basically to pitch on it. So I pitched, they had someone else from the 2 other labels pitch, and then it was, basically whoever gave the best pitch got the video. I made the best pitch.
You made the best pitch, I hear it.
So yeah, and then we were supposed to shoot in London. Couldn't make that happen because of travel, visas, all that kind of stuff. And then, Ed Sheeran's team said, we've got, a few hours spare when we're in New York on this date, if you lot can make it happen. And we had to make it happen, do you know what I mean? Like, it was really important as well. Well, for me, obviously, the treatment that I've written to have them together. I also feel like when you're doing a record like that, again, important for artists to be together so it doesn't feel like it's forced. Because it wasn't a forced collaboration. Like, I saw the whole record come together in the first place.
Yeah.
And like, Ed Sheeran's never done a remix to a song. So I don't know if a lot of people know that. If you actually look back, he does obviously songs all the time with artists, but he's never actually done a remix.
Okay.
But he heard the song and he genuinely fell in love with it. It happened in seconds. Like, he heard the song, they were straight on the phone. We need the instrumental. He wrote it that night, recorded it, and the song was like done the next day. Like, it was quick.
It's mad.
So went over. That whole experience for me was actually really nerve-wracking because obviously first it was Ed Sheeran, so that in itself was pressure.
Yeah.
I had my friend, the A&R that was on the project, putting so much pressure on me because he was like, you can't mess it up. So if you mess it up, I look bad. And I was like, I need you to let me breathe. And then I was really stressed out as well because I didn't want to shoot it in New York. So I hadn't shot in New York. And like, I was going in blind, team I didn't know, hadn't seen locations in real life, like nothing.
Jeez.
So like, it was just like pressure building on pressure. I remember literally like a couple of days before I left, like my friends being at my house being like, oh, you got this. And I was literally sitting there like sipping like a mint tea, being like, I'm gonna like, don't know what I'm gonna do, freaking out. But yeah, so flew into New York. We had like a recce day, which is like the day you go and check out locations, figure out like where you want the scenes, your crew meets you and you like talk through the video. And we had 3 locations penciled as like possibilities for the shoot. First one we walked into, I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, I know that this is what I want. Just the way it was all like laid out, and it had like certain little nooks and crannies that like I knew that we could play with and do some like really cool stuff with.
So just so I'm like there with you now, yeah. So have you met the producer yet, or?
No. So basically, the producer that actually put everything together in the States, I had met once before in London. So my old mentor, actually, Luke Biggins, rest in peace, because he passed last year.
Okay. Condolences.
I had done a job with him once, and the producer was in London and we'd met really briefly, and he'd worked a lot with Luke. So when it came up, I got on the phone to him straight away and I was like, Omar, like, I need you.
Yeah.
I don't really know, like, I know people out there, but like, I know with you, like, he knows what he's doing. He's like absolutely smashing the game. Like, and he was like, I'm not going to be in New York. I'm going to be in Miami shooting DJ Khaled and Mary J. Blige and a bunch of other people. And I was like, okay, well, like, I don't trust anyone else. And he was like, well, I can put you together a crew. I just won't be here. So I was like, that was another thing that I was panicking about. So I was like, at least if I had him, it would be like, you know, when you at least have one person.
You bounce off someone, innit?
Like, it's a little bit of a comfort blanket. Like,
100%.
I didn't even have that. But like, he literally put together like the most amazing crew. Like, day one that I met them, like, they were just so on job, like, just listening. That was another thing I was really worried about as well. Being a woman in my industry over the years, I've really had to like build a name and almost like earn my respect, which I shouldn't have to do.
No, facts.
But I've had to do.
Yeah.
And I've got that now here. But I was so nervous about flying into New York. I already look like a baby. I'm not a baby, by the way. I'm 29. But I look like a child. I get told all the time. So I was like, I'm going to fly into New York. I'm going to walk in here. They're probably all going to be like middle-aged men, because that's normally the film world. And they're probably all going to look at me and be like, who is this like, who's this little girl? And like, what does she think she's doing? And I thought they'd like really try and kind of undermine me and like push me to do things I didn't really want to do. And, you know, like just little things like that. But
try and like just give you the strong arm a bit.
yeah, like, and that's what I'm saying. I spent, and also even going to America in the fact, like anyone that knows about film, like being in America in itself is very intimidating. Like, because they're working on a whole different like budgets, like it's a whole different ball game. Their productions are just way bigger. So that in itself is already like it's a jump, you know. But as I said, like the team was amazing from like the second that I met them. They were just like really attentive, ready to listen, like, and like helpful rather than like trying to shove me aside. Like they were just really genuinely trying to like help and elevate me.
And this is the team he put together for you, yeah?
Yeah, so it was the team he had put together for me.
That's good.
So yeah, we spent that day, we walked through the whole location, like everything was good. I was getting all the PDS with all the dancers and models and all that kind of stuff. We were going through that whilst like walking through each setup. And then yeah, next day it was time to go, and we were shooting with Fireboy from the afternoon. Then Ed Sheeran came in the evening. Like they obviously got to meet for the first time.
So you was there for that as well?
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Well, firstly, like Ed's literally like the coolest guy ever.
Yeah.
Like he is the prime example of any artist that I meet that has like mad ego, or can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Any artist that I meet that's just got like mad ego is like a dickhead. I'm like, you're that because you are that.
Yeah.
Because like your money and your fame and being paranoid or all the excuses that they use isn't an excuse, because he's literally arguably one of the biggest artists in the world, and he is so humble, down to earth, like chilled out, like just a normal person. Yeah. So if he can be like that, they all can. No one's, you know?
Yeah,
exactly.
You hear that a lot.
So yeah, like he was so cool. Fireboy as well, like he's so lovely. I'd obviously met him before. Like when we all landed, we had met up. We, you know, went to his fitting and all that kind of stuff on the recce day. But yeah, like they got on straight away. Like they're both just really chilled out, cool guys. They were like vibing. Obviously, they obviously went into like the trailers and stuff, and were, like chilling. Yeah. I was on set like doing what I was doing, but yeah, like just the whole experience, like the whole thing was just like good vibes, like, you know, and especially for a video like that we were trying to create, like that's what we needed. We needed just like a good vibe on set, everyone high energy. We were shooting in the freezing cold. It was December in New York, so like it was freezing, and we were in some like drafty warehouse with like big industrial fans to try to keep us warm. But like everyone just kept like really high energy, and like it was good. Obviously dancing and stuff's really out of like Ed's comfort zone. But in the end, like at first, like you could tell he was a bit like, ooh, but like really quickly, like he just warmed up and was just like enjoying it, and everyone was like having fun. And I think when you watch the video, you can see that.
100.
And
that's why I asked what it was like when they first.
Yeah, like no. When they first met, they were always cool. But like I said, like the genre is already out of his comfort zone. Like the idea, the concept, like all the dancing, like that kind of like clubby vibe. Like I said, that's not his normal pocket. So, of course, when we first started filming those kind of scenes with all the girls and, like, all dancing, and obviously Ed's married, he's got his family and, like, all of that, like, you could see that, like, he felt, you know, a bit out of place, but very quickly, like, he warmed up, and then eventually it was just, like, two friends just enjoying, vibing, like, having fun.
That's sick.
And, yeah, like, it was good. And we were there, I think, in the end until I think we finished up at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and yeah, video done. And then came back to London, and then we did a pickup day in London to do
What's a pickup day?
So like extra scenes.
Okay.
So they wanted to add, the label wanted to add 3 of the dancers that actually helped Peru go viral in the first place. They were UK dancers.
Okay, yeah.
And so we wanted to get them in the video. So we set up like a dance scene for them in a warehouse in London. And then we wanted to shoot the intro for the video, which is where you saw Ed with Jamal, again, rest in peace, Jamal Edwards. And that was important for me to get Jamal in that video. So I've actually known him for a while now, and like Peru's really special to me, even more so now that he's not here.
Yeah, 100.
Because we always said like, oh, we're gonna direct something together, because he got back into his directing like recently, and we were talking, be like, oh, we're gonna do something together. We don't know how. We obviously, I was telling you earlier, we did something with Adobe and SBTV, but like very briefly. And then when Peru happened, obviously Jamal was the person that took the song to Ed. So when we were doing that scene, originally they were like, oh yeah, like we just want to see Ed, you know, like in a bar in London, and Fireboy invites him. And I was like, that person should be Jamal. Like, it just makes sense. They're friends organically. People expect to see them together. And also Jamal was a big part of making this happen. So why would we not put him in the video? Like, it just makes sense. So yeah, like it was like, even thinking about that whole thing is just kind of crazy to me, because I was literally standing on set that day having a conversation with Jamal, talking about my mentor Luke, who had passed a few months before, and telling him like how much they remind me of each other, in terms of like, if I can name 2 people in our world and our industry that like could have gone on to do so much bigger things, but because they cared so much about like communitying, helping others, and like excelling others, like they were really similar in so many aspects. Anyways, I'm not even going to get too deep, because
I hear it though.
You know, but
but it's important to talk about though, because them things like people don't talk about them things. And obviously, like, you know, I don't want to say cliche, but you hear like, oh, he was this, you know, and people kind of saying the same. But like, for someone who was like first hand there, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
no, they really were pioneers in their field for what they did, and it's really hard to come across people in our industry that have like good hearts and like are like pure like that. And if you asked me a year ago, this time last year, they would have been the 2 people that I name, and it's just really unfortunate that in the space of a few months we lost both of them. But I think also when you see the reaction to losing them, like I was getting calls when Luke passed away being like, you'd think he was a celebrity. Like, you know, like the way like people are posting about him, like he's everywhere. And then it was also, oh, you know, it's not just your rest in peace Luke. Everyone comes with all these stories of where he helped them and da-da-da. There's no director in this country, I'm telling you first right now, any other directors that you interview, if you ask them about Luke Biggins, everyone has passed somehow, some way through that man in directing. Whether he helped them somewhere, he worked with them as a DP somewhere, got them a job, something somewhere, like helped them out financially. It will be something. That's somewhere he would have made some type of pivotal point in their career. He had been in the game for 20, if not longer, years. Yeah, maybe even longer than that. I don't know, 30 years. And I was just so grateful that I actually had the privilege to be so close with him and have him as a mentor through my career. And then like same thing applies for Jamal. Like obviously Jamal was a lot more well known in terms of like he was a figure himself, but you see all the stories about all the artists he helped, like how much influence he's had in like music and stuff like over the years, and people's careers that like he's helped elevate. And like he's genuinely just they were just genuinely good guys, you know? But anyway, so like I said, Peru's very...
Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, it's all right. Peru's like important to me because of that, you know? It's like one of the last big things, I guess, that he did, that like more people knew about anyway. So I think it's a really important project to all of us now.
Yeah, more so now, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
like, I mean, the song in itself anyway, and everything that is done for music and culture is amazing. Like, we did, song went platinum in under 4 months, like, mental. Videos done over 70 million views already, and it's been like 5 months, you know? So, like, the song's flying, like, it's like, such an infectious song. And like everyone that's been involved in the project, like everyone's been so like just happy about just the results of it overall. But then, like I said, with that happening, I think now that project feels very extra special to a lot of people that were involved in it, because there were so many people around him that were close to him and like things like that. But yeah, so.
No, it's a nice moment.
It is. It is.
A nice moment.
Like I'm happy that we have that.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have that forever, you know?
Yeah.
And like I feel
100.
like that's not gonna be forgotten.
Yeah, no, that's important.
Yeah. And like I said, the song's doing amazing. Ed's like on tour, performing it in all his sets. Like he loves it. And like obviously for Fireboy as well, like he's still quite new and stuff, but like that's just like hit records, like, you know?
Yeah, literally.
So that was Peru, basically.
Amazing.
So
I mean, obviously, I guess you can't talk about anything coming up, but would you say that was your biggest?
Yeah, that's obviously I mean, you can't really get bigger than him, you know what I mean? So I mean, it technically wasn't his record, like he's a feature on it, but either way, like it's definitely the biggest thing that I've worked on, you know? Like songs like that don't happen very regularly, you know what I'm saying? Like to be able to do all the numbers and things that like we got robbed of number one though, which was rude, but because that Disney film dropped, and like one of the Encanto, is that what it was called? And we were literally sitting at number 2 in the charts for like 12 weeks with this stupid song, and we were all there like, are you actually... anyways.
Do you know, I'm laughing, though.
Like,
it's obviously a couple of my boys have got kids and stuff here.
And they bang it all the time. Listen, you can't compete with those songs, you know?
I'm like, what song? Like Encanto, I'm like,
no, you can't.
Mental.
It's, like, once it happened, I was like, guys, in our heads, we know it's a number 1 record. That doesn't count. But I was
mad.
like, that ain't happening. See, when them kids get onto something, like, it's not stopping. Like, insane. But Peru's been, like, an amazing moment, like, in general, obviously, as well, for, like, my career. And that was the end of last year. Top of the year, started on a high with all of, like, ArrDee stuff. Did ArrDee and Aitch War, 2 more of ArrDee's bits. War's actually probably my favourite video I've ever directed.
Yeah?
It's just very unfortunate with the timing of what's going on in the world. The song got blocked.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so obviously, like, everything that's going on with the war. The song had dropped, and then the war happened, like, a week later. Man. So, like, they weren't allowed to have, like, radio play and things like that.
Okay.
Like, it still did a smash for what it needed to do, like, at the beginning, but it's just a bit of a shame, do you know what I mean? Like, it's still on socials, like, you can still watch it and all that kind of stuff, but like, that record should have been way bigger than it was. Yeah,
now you said it now, it's like, makes sense.
Yeah, because it hit top 10 first week.
Yeah.
And then it came right back out. Because it had, like, they had to stop. But that's actually one of my favourite videos. Actually, I think it is my favourite video I've ever directed.
Why?
Just everything about it. Like, firstly, everything that I envisioned, like, happened on the screen.
Okay.
Secondly, like, you haven't watched the video, have you?
I feel like I've watched a bit of it.
Okay.
I'll be honest.
It's very, like, cinematic. Like, I feel it's the type of work I like to create. So I've always been more of a performance-based director. Like, I want you to be able to, like, screenshot my work when you watch my work. And it's just really, like, visually pleasing, looks really, like, cinematic, looks really grand. It looks probably like a 2-3 day shoot. It wasn't, it was all done in a day. Both the guys as well, mad cool, like...
Good to work with, yeah?
Yeah, so amazing to work with. Like, ArrDee's just like a little superstar, cares so much about his work and his, like, everything. Aitch is just a cool guy. Like, literally, like, when you see them together, they're like brothers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just, it's nice to work with artists, like I said, when they just naturally kind of get on like that, because it just makes the atmosphere so, different. But yeah, like, everything about that video, just all the, like, little symbolizations of, you know, the UK tried to pit them against each other.
Yeah.
You've got when you watch the video, you see you've got them kind of like facing off at the beginning, but then like you see them together towards like the end, and then like all the multiple ArrDees and Aitches playing off the idea of them being compared to like looking alike, and like just like I said, like all the little kind of little what would you call like not secret messages, 'cause they're not secret, a lot of people pick them up, but you know what I mean, like just like those little gems that are kind of put around the video that are like symbolizations for like other things. I just like that in terms of work, and like I said, just visually it's
And that
like
was all your vision as well?
Yeah, so like when I got the brief, they already had a very strong idea of like how they kind of wanted it, and then like me along with ArrDee just kind of like elevated everything and put it together. But yeah, like it was just such a good project.
You love it though, innit, what you do?
Yeah, I love
in
what
general,
I do.
Yeah, I can tell.
do.
That's sick, man.
I know, everyone's always like, you're so passionate when you talk
Yeah,
about
no,
what you
it's
do. I'm
good.
like, I genuinely do love what I do.
That's
why
that's like one of the reasons why I was excited about this conversation, because I knew I wasn't really gonna be doing much talking.
Sorry if I been...
No. It's not a bad thing. It's just that this is why I wanted to create the show, like, because there's people out here who are passionate about what they do, and people don't know unless they see them. But like, who's just gonna see you and stop you on the street and go, oh, by the way, X, Y, Z. Also, like, you're a woman in your field doing amazing things, but like, it's not for any other reason but you're good at what you do and you're passionate about it. And that's what I'm trying to showcase. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we'll go into it as well. Like, now, like, being like your struggles and being a woman, an attractive woman in business. Like, let's just address like the elephant in the room. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, how have you found it? Because like, history is showing it's been difficult for women, especially. Like, it can go to all different angles. So like, what's been your struggles and the positives, like being a young woman?
I mean, yeah, listen, it's difficult. It shouldn't be, but it is. That's just the reality of it.
And sorry, to get people to take you serious as well.
Yeah. So first time I ever turned up to a music video set, I was literally in like jeans, like a crop top and like a hoodie. I had like a full face of makeup on. I remember I literally got out of the car, and the guy I was telling you about at the time, that I was running the business with, he literally looked at me and he was like, what do you think you're doing? I was like, what? He was like, you can't turn up to a video set like this. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you can't do that. Like, you're just going to get attention that you don't want. But obviously I wasn't even thinking about it like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was just dressing to look nice. I don't know. And I understood that very quick. I had situations when I first started with like guys like whistling at me and like trying to like make jokes around the mandate. I mean, going back to what I kind of said, why I don't do those kind of shoots. Yeah. I just prefer to avoid it. Like, I don't want to go to work and be stressed out or annoyed and mad. And to be fair, a lot of the time it's not the artists, it's the people that they come with, like their entourage or their friends or whatever it is. But like, it's just an annoyance that I don't want to have to deal with. Like, I want to go to work. I don't want to go to work to, you know, like have people
get hit on.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's why I avoid that. I also dress very different now when I work. When I work, I always work in tracksuits. Firstly, I've always, like, I don't have to do it. It's a choice that I make. Okay. I don't wear makeup normally when I work, or if I do, it's like very light makeup. It wouldn't be like a lot. And I think that was a conscious thing at the beginning. Now, like, I just do it because I actually just don't care. Like, I don't care how I look at work. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and it's just such a controversial subject because women shouldn't be made or forced to do that. Like, if I wanted to wear shorts to work, I should be able to wear them. Do you know what I mean? If I want to put on a full face of makeup to make myself feel good, I should be allowed to do that. And I can do that. I just choose, I don't want the extra ag. Like, I'm a very like peaceful person. And also, like, when I do get rattled up, like, I can get rattled quite like strong. And I just don't want to go there. It's difficult. Like I said, it's a really hard and touchy subject. I found what works for me. That isn't necessarily everyone. Like, I've had this conversation with people sometimes, and people have almost said like, "Oh, you've almost caved into."
That's what I was.
That.
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, well, not really. Like, either I could do what I was doing and then deal with it, and then have to like correct people, put them in their place
time.
every day,
Yeah,
which
facts.
I can't be bothered to do. Also, I'm not your mother.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't my job to teach you. Like, and I also feel like it's really hard because I feel like a lot of the time as well, people aren't doing it purposely. I don't think men do it purposely to try make a woman feel uncomfortable. Some do.
Satin people. So a lot of the time I'm getting asked like what I'm wearing on the show when I'm out and about, like, oh, where's your fit from and this, that, the other. So I thought I'd do a little segment called Where's Sealey? Obviously, where's Sealey? Makes sense. So today we've got on Associate Noir. It's the La Batisse Grey Mole. Obviously, Associate Noir. You can see we've got the badge on the left. It's just a nice fit. Obviously, Noir always sought me out. You know, from like Sealey Mag days. So yeah, man, big shout out to them. Obviously, we're gonna get all your discount codes sorted out as well. Yeah, so yeah, man, check that out.
I don't think men do it to make women purposely try feel uncomfortable. I just feel like sometimes they don't know the right time or place for things, or like they genuinely just think they're like being funny, and it's like, it's not funny. You know what I mean?
So
like,
I'm gonna try and answer it, yeah, without generalizing all the man them. As a man.
Okay.
Because some of them who probably shot their shot on set are probably genuine guys. Obviously, I'm not there in it. It might be genuine though. Like they actually might just be like, "Oh my god," that's a possibility. Yeah. Obviously, there's gonna be a percentage where they're just like, just because of the moment, and you're probably like the prettiest girl on set or whatever, and they're just shooting their shot just for whatever other reason.
Okay.
Or hopefully it's a small percentage of like the guys who are just doing it to kind of just rattle you and throw you off, which would be weird though.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, is in like, I don't think it's done intentionally.
Yeah.
So I don't take offense to it.
Okay.
Like, it's complimentary. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a woman, you think I'm beautiful, you want to talk to me, whatever. Like, that's great. And like, cool, I appreciate it. But also at the same time, like, I'm not here for that. Like, also, like, I came here to do a job. Like, and it's definitely happened. Like, I've had situations over the years where artists it's gotten awkward and I haven't been able to work.
Okay.
Like, so many situations where like clients will start calling me like baby or like babe, and I'm like, hello. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to address me as that. It like,
that's mad.
this whole subject in general is just a really, really complicated subject because it's such like fine lines and like boundaries and things like that to like start picking apart. It's really difficult. I've just learnt, for me, and my advice to women would always be, find your confidence, however that might be, and learn to like take your respect. And that doesn't necessarily mean being loud. It's a presence, and it's the way that you carry yourself. So I'm actually naturally a loud person anyway. So like, you can feel that when you're on my sets. Like, even especially now, like people that know me outside of work and then see me work, they're like, you're so different, you know? Like, because I'm just like your normal London girl. Like, I like to go out and party and like do all this type of stuff. But then when I'm at work, like I'm so like headstrong and like focused. And like, I don't take rubbish. But I don't have to deal with it as much anymore. I don't have to deal with it as much anymore.
So you're very particular with what you choose. And
firstly, I'm particular about the artists that I choose to work with, the type of projects that I take on. And also, I've been in this industry long enough now that I have built a name for myself that people also know that like...
I'm coming to work.
I'm coming to work. Yeah. So it's not that.
Yeah.
But like, that took time and took confidence. Like, I'm so different now to how I used to be when I first started Do you get what I mean? But that's just all part of growth.
No, of course.
So yeah, that would be my advice. Like, find your confidence. Don't be scared to say what you need to say. And like, don't get me wrong either. Like, we're not just talking about artists and entourage and things like that. Crew members and stuff like that too. Like, it is a male-dominated field in general, and it's not easy. It is harder to navigate. Even for me, like, I have to travel sometimes with like 15 guys, and I'm like the only girl, maybe like a makeup artist, you know, like, but yeah, like, you just gotta, I guess, learn how to handle yourself in your own way, in your own right. It's like I said, it's really hard. Like, it's hard because this is something that people are like, subjects that obviously people always want to talk about, but it's just such, like, it's such a fine line, and like it can get kind of controversial in a lot of ways. But
do you know anyone, do you know any other women, maybe not in this particular field, but in maybe other male dominated fields that have had this situation?
Yeah, of course.
So
100%.
What's been...
like, firstly, I know other directors that are women.
Oh, okay, great, yeah.
Producers that are women. We actually had a you know, like lockdown when Clubhouse became a thing. Excuse me. We were like running rooms with women in the UK in like film and entertainment.
Okay.
And it was basically just a space for like women to come and firstly just ask questions from us about like, but then also it became more of a room for like all of us to just share and learn from each other about just, so yeah, like how to navigate yourself like through our industry, how to handle certain situations. I'm not married or have kids, but there are some, like a good friend of mine who's a director and producer. She's married, she's got a child, so she's got a whole other set of like things to worry about, you know, and like having to navigate due to those type of things. So yeah, like, it was just really a space for all of us to kind of be there, share stories, advice on like how to overcome certain situations, get yourself out of certain situations. And it spread quite big as well to even just like models, dancers, and like how they can also help keep themselves safe when it comes to like bookings and like getting jobs and where they're going and the people that are they're around. Because it can be hard for women anywhere, no matter what you're doing. Do you get what I mean? Like, unfortunately, like, us as women and the way that we're built and everything, we're always going to be more vulnerable, you know? And someone once said this to me because I was having an argument about how like women could do things just as good as men. So like, if you ran a company, like, why wouldn't you hire a woman? Like, da-da-da-da-da. And like, they actually said one of the most real things to me ever. And they were like, think about it. If I'm running a 9-to-5 business and I have 2 candidates in front of me and they both have the exact same characteristics, qualities, qualifications, like everything, and one's a man and one's a woman. He was like, Gabby, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm going to choose the man. I said, why? He said, because women can get pregnant and then I've got to give them maternity leave. Women are also tend to be a lot more like emotionally driven. You know, you can have your time of the month, you might need to be off. Like, you're basically a lot more vulnerable to needing time out than a man, okay? And for that reason, he was like, it's got nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman and that like I have a problem with a woman working for me or I don't think she could do it.
That's what you come
but
with.
Unfortunately, like, if I've got to weigh it up, it makes more sense for me as a businessman to take the man. And I'd never really thought about it that way until he kind of broke that down to me. And I was like, you know what? I can't argue with that. Because we all say, like, when you're a business not personal, right? That's what everyone says.
Yeah.
Like, when business decisions are made, whether I fire you, whether I hire you, whatever, it's not personal. This is about business. And if you look at it from a business perspective, in a situation like that, I'm not saying in all cases, but in a situation like that, I get it. From a money perspective and a money standpoint and a business standpoint, he actually makes sense. So I can understand that. Obviously, it's not fair, because we can't control those things.
Yeah, I think that's the...
If I could, you know, have a baby with a man and let him carry the baby, it would be wonderful, but we can't do that. So, like, that's just the reality of life. Like, I think sometimes, even though I'm a woman and I really wave the flag for we're just as good as men, in certain places better. Like, I actually think in film, no disrespect to all the men out there, I actually think in film, women are better at their job, only because I think, like, something that I always get complimented on as a director is that I pay attention to really fine details.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And
My brother.
And I think that's from being a woman.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the same way, like, a woman will look at their man and, like, correct, like, anything's out of place, or, like, you know what I mean? Whereas, like, men don't tend to
They just do it and then just send it across.
Yeah, like, they just don't... They just don't tend to pay as much attention to, I get, like, fine details. Yeah. Let's put it like that.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
So I actually think... I actually think that's, like, a benefit. And then same thing in production, again, no disrespect to men, I actually think in general women tend to be more organised. Yeah?
Just right? Keep speaking, because I'm
obviously, as I was explaining to you earlier, technically the skill you need for production is organisation. So, like, these are actually jobs that I think women should and will excel in more and more, but it's just always been a male-dominated field. Do you get what I mean?
Interesting.
So, but that's what I'm saying. Even though I'm someone that really waves the flag for women, and I really want to push women and be a voice and a face for women, and, like, even down to things like my Instagram and all of that, like, my Instagram isn't your typical video director's social media. Like, I very much, it's my personal page.
Yeah.
But that's because I want young women to be able to look at me and feel like I'm relatable.
100.
You don't need to be an introvert. You don't need to be, like, weird or quirky to be a director, or, like, and, like, into, I don't know, like,
sit there and watch
old
films all
school,
day.
80s movies and things like that. Like, you can just be a normal person that's creative, which is what I am. Like I said, I'm your normal London girl. I do all the same things that if you're born and bred, like, here, that we do. I just have a passion and a love for something that I happen to be, like, good at. And I've managed to make a career of it, and it's amazing, and I love it. And there's no reason why other women shouldn't be able to do that, which is, like I said, why I keep my social media like that. But even though I'm such a pro for women, I'm also not a feminist.
Yeah.
I don't believe men and women should be equal, because we're not. In the sense of equal, in the sense that we should be given the same respect, but not equal in the sense that, like, a man's always going to be built stronger than a woman. Like I said, there's certain things that women have to do, like bear children, etc., that men can't. We are built differently. Like, and no matter how much we argue and fight that, and, like, I understand, I'm probably going to get sent for after this, but as in...
No, you're not.
Like,
I'm going to back you up. Check that one.
I understand, obviously, I get the movement. Like, I do get the movement, but also at the same time, there are so many things that I'm just like, well, it's just not, it's not realistic.
It's not.
Like, that's just the reality of it. There are certain things that, on the odd exception, not all the time, but on average, like, men and women are going to be better in different things. And that's just how it is. Like, and it's funny to me because I'm like, it's the same type of way. Like, let's say I went and did a weights competition with a guy and I lost. I'd be like, it's because you're a guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the truth. Yeah. Like, you're naturally built bigger than me. I'm built more, I'm always going to be built more fragile. Like, we're just built differently. That's it.
I'm glad that we kind of, like, moved on to this, because my thing with the difference, it's not even physical, because there's nothing you can, well, there is things now you can do to help that, but naturally...
Well, no, it's in all aspects.
Yeah.
Physically, the way that we're
for me, it's the psyche.
Wired.
That's 100%. That's the part. And I'm like...
100%. Look, you can always put a generalisation on men, and you can always put a generalisation on women. Obviously, you do have odd exceptions.
Yeah.
Like anything in life. But the reality is we are built differently, and we are going, as men and as women, we're going to excel in different things. I do think that there needs obviously to be equality in things like pay rights.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I think it's mad to hear that like a man and a woman could be working at the same company doing the same job, but they're not getting paid the same. Like, that's mad. And that's not acceptable.
No, 100.
And for those type of things that like people are out there fighting for, like, good on them and keep fighting. And like, do you know what I mean? Like, we need to, because you shouldn't get paid more than me because I'm a woman and I'm a man, and you're a man. But like I said, like, there's just certain things that we also need to actually be realistic about. And like I said, just understand that, like, we're different.
So, do you think, I don't know. So, do you think, that a lot of women accept that fact or not? Or have you spoken to a lot more women who've accepted that fact? Or have you come across a lot more women who've been like, no, but Gabby, etc., etc., etc.?
No, I think, look, like I said, I think deep down, majority of women know that.
Okay, so not taking account then.
I don't think it's not taking account. I think sometimes you have to go overboard with the message for the message to be received, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Am I making sense?
Overboard in what sense though? Is it like a woman, like...
As in, like, if I say something, it might not be heard. If I shout it, you're going to hear me.
Yeah, that's true.
Am I making sense?
Yeah.
So that would be like my closest analogy in trying to like I said, I'm not a feminist, so I actually couldn't give you that much information. But from my standpoint as a woman, and I know how I feel about things and how I see things, I think it's a situation where they have to scream to be heard. Wow, so maybe not everything that they scream is necessarily the truth, or not even the truth, that's not even the right word to, but like might be over exaggerated or over pushed,
but they have to scream anyway.
But they need to scream it for people to hear them in the first place, which is why I think that they do it. I don't know, you'd have to ask someone on this show that's...
We can settle there.
You know what I mean?
We can start there. That's a good start. That's a good start.
Yeah, that's how I look at it.
Oh, fair enough.
So, yeah.
Now, you covered a lot of bases there, because I was going to ask about your struggles. Obviously, you went through that, and obviously being a woman in the industry. Your pioneering influence is there for everyone to see. Do you see yourself as a pioneer? Do you see yourself as an influencer?
I mean, yeah, like, I guess so to an extent. I mean, it's just those... I mean, for someone like me, like, I don't know, I guess I don't like to use those, not use those terms, but as in, I just want to, if I can be a role model, like, I'm not perfect, but if, like I said, I can encourage and be like a role model for younger women that want to do what I want to do, or maybe not even do what I want to do, but have, like, followed my journey and gained confidence to be able to do things that they thought that they might not be able to do. Like, I've done my job. Do you know what I mean? Like, like, when I get messages on social media from, like, young girls that have said, oh, like, I've seen what you do, and, like, it's so inspiring, and, like, da-da-da-da. Like, it means a lot to me, because it means that I'm doing the right things, you know what I mean? And, like, it's so easy to go on your career and on your track and just forget, you know, and just focus on you and focus about the money and the career and, like, where you're going. But I haven't forgot, because for me, especially in my industry, you can't get anywhere without someone giving you your first chance or your first opportunity, or without that helping hand. So who would I to be now that I'm somewhere to not give that helping hand? Because if someone didn't give me that, I wouldn't be here. So that's important to me. That's why I take young women on, and men actually, on set with me all the time, that want to shadow me, come do photography, do BTS, like production. I'll ask my producer, do you mind if someone you know come and assist you for the day? And yeah, like, even off doing that, I've really, like, there's 2 young ladies that have really excelled in their careers now, and, like, watching their journeys from, like, when I first met them and talking to them, and, like, them being on set and, like, seeing what they're doing now, like, that's like the most fulfilling thing in like
it's
the
a
world.
win. Yeah, of course.
Because like I know that I was like a helping point to really get them there. And that like it's just it's just like a good feeling, you know.
No,
and like by the time I retire and I leave, etc., like I said, like if I leave and there's, you know, 2 or 3 like badass directors out there
come through the school of Gabby
that have come through me or just followed my story or been on one of my sets or whatever it might be, that has got them there, like I've done my job.
It's a win. No, facts.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Like it's such a fulfilling feeling.
Can imagine. Yeah.
To know that like you can help people like that, like you've technically helped someone change their life, like, and that's mad.
Yeah,
to
it is.
even like think.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like I said, I look at myself and I think I'm normal. Like, I'm a normal human being. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
But a lot of people won't see you like that.
No, I'm understanding of that because of the career that I've gone into. That some people might not look at it like that, but I am. Like I am. Like I'm not anything abnormal. Like I said, I don't have. Well, I mean, I don't have like any like odd characteristics or like anything like crazy special. Like, you know, I'm passionate about something that I do. I love to do what I do. I guess I'm good at what I do, and like I was just kind of brave enough to take a leap and do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that doesn't make me any better than like anyone else. You know?
I hear it.
So yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I hope they go on to do great things as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like already there are people that like I'm already seeing doing that, and like it's such a good feeling. And even now, to be honest with you, it's only really since mid last year that I started, I guess, not working on my brand, but doing more stuff for the brand for me and putting myself out there, like trying to do like interviews and magazines, things like this, TV shows and stuff.
Thanks, Gabby.
TV shows and stuff like that. Because now I'm like I said, like I need to build that brand, not even so much for myself. I want to build that brand for those other people. Like I want to be found, because something that I was actually recently having a conversation with someone about, I was saying that if you're into film and you already know you're into film, there are so many platforms and networks that are out there and like kind of communities that you can go and you can learn and you can understand. If you don't know that you want to be in it, there's not.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
And like I said, reverting back to what I said about not knowing I wanted to do what I wanted to do, how can I reach those people to let them know that like it's a possibility if this is something that you could be interested in?
100.
So then it started making me think more about like my brand and like how can I start collaborating with more like across the board platforms to then maybe not necessarily a filmmaker or someone who's wants to do film can actually hear what I'm trying to say, because that might open up their eyes to something, you know? So like
Definitely.
Something that I want to try do this year is try work with like brands, like fashion brands and stuff like that have an audience that wouldn't be my audience, but like they're all now investing in like podcasts and doing like different things, you know?
Yeah.
And then you've got platforms like Spotify and Apple Music that are now doing their podcasts around like music and culture and things like that. Like they're the type of things that now I'm like, okay, it's not a normal thing for directors to be on, but like how can I now start trying to tap into those platforms and those channels so that that message can reach a wider audience, or to people that this might not have been on their radar, but it might spark them to realize that they can do it, or they want to do it, or like I said, even if it's not in my field, like the inspiration to do it in another field.
No, that's sick. I love that.
So yeah.
And I think, like I said, I think you're in position and in that space, like to go onto those platforms. Do you know what I'm saying? Where people are gonna go, oh yeah. Do you know what I'm
Getting
saying?
there. Getting there slowly but surely. Like it's hard, especially when you're trying to do stuff that people haven't done before, if that makes sense. So like now in anyone that's kind of into film, I guess, like a Director X. You probably know who Director X is.
Heard of
Yeah,
them.
so like he's the one that does like a lot of Drake's videos and like stuff like that, and like Rihanna's videos and stuff. And he's probably a director in music that's kind of actually really built a brand and a name for himself, and like is a face for being a director,
Right.
if that makes sense,
Yeah.
in music
Right.
videos anyway. Obviously you've got massive film directors and stuff like that, but it's kind of a different ballgame. But like really for music video directors, I feel like he's one for like our kind of modern day generation that's really built a brand for himself and like a household name that he has become a brand. But it's not something that everyone's doing. Also, a lot of directors, they are very like, a lot of them can be very introverted. They don't want to be in front of the camera. Even me, like, even though I'm a chatty patty and stuff, I actually get really
Chatty person, not a chatty patty.
Chatty patty. Well, you know what I mean? As in, like, I like to talk, but as in, I don't even like being in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like photo shoots. Like, I don't mind the odd selfie when I'm taking it of myself, but like, if someone actually stands in front of me with a camera, I don't feel very comfortable.
Okay.
Because I'm so used to being behind it. You know what I mean? And same thing with like filming. Like talking to you like this is fine because I just feel like you're asking me questions and I can just talk. But then like if you ask me to just sit in front of a camera and just talk, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's another thing. People tell me, oh, you should vlog. Like you should vlog and like vlog on your like. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't literally hold my phone and chat. Like, who am I chatting to? Do you know what I mean? It's just not for me. I genuinely don't have the confidence to do it.
I don't think I could vlog.
Like,
I don't think I could
do you know what I mean? So there's
it's just weird. When I'm on the road, yeah, and I see people doing this,
you know what though? You have to give it to them.
It takes bottle, you know that.
Yeah, no, it does. It does.
That's
no,
mad.
Like, real talk, it really does. As in, like, I went through a stage where I was like, okay, I'm going to try vlog. And I tried to do it. And, like, it was the biggest failure of my whole entire life. Like, I'd literally be talking. And then, like, after a few seconds, I'd be like, who the hell wants to hear me talk about this? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you have to have so much confidence.
Yeah.
And also, especially vloggers that do it, like, full-time as a job and have audiences that are like invested in them.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. Like all this content creator stuff that I know like people like to kind of almost downplay it, the social media, like, and think, oh, these, you know, IG models and TikTokers and vloggers and YouTubers, like, oh, they have such easy jobs and they make so much money. It's not easy. Like it's really not easy. Like, especially coming from someone that's like, I see a lot of it and I see how much hard work like actually goes into it. And someone that's attempted to try and failed, like it's difficult to be
I think it is though as well.
Consistent, creative, entertaining, like all of it. Like it's not easy.
I think a big part of it as well, because I remember you said there, like, you're 29, so you're from an era where like you actually remember the internet starting.
Yeah.
Right. And
I remember.
Yeah. And like you was actually outside. So like if we was out, can you imagine if we was outside at that time, yeah? Like playing out and you just seen some kid like talking to her, like you'd actually think he was weird.
Yeah, 100%.
But now it's normal.
Yeah, well
Do you know what I'm saying?
I always say that I think our kind of like bracket is the luckiest.
100%.
Because we got to experience life before it and life with it. And I feel like we're in that perfect medium where like we indulge and we use it.
Yeah.
And we understand it, but not fully consumed by it because we remember what it felt like to be without it.
Yeah.
And there's a really, really like precise bracket age of people that have that. Like, see, like my mom's literally had an iPhone for like 8 years and like she still can't use it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, she's still got, I bought her she nagged me, okay, for time. I want a laptop. I went and bought her a laptop for her birthday. She's opened the laptop 3 times in the space of 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, she can't use it. And she'll be like, oh, can you give me lessons? I'm like, I don't have the patience. If you haven't learned how to use your phone, like the easiest thing in 8 years, how am I going to teach you how to use a laptop? And then she's opening up and trying to like touch I'm like, it's not touch screen,
Yeah, it's
like
mad.
it's a laptop. Like,
It's mad.
It's just like, exactly, like
My
it's
parents
mad.
are the same. My parents
Exactly.
are exactly. My mum's gonna be laughing at this.
So, it's one of those things that it's like older generation, they just don't, they try to get involved, but like don't really understand it. Like I said, then you've got that age bracket of like, where we got to live through it, we understand it, we can like use it, control it.
Switch it off at the same time.
But also know when to switch off. And then you've obviously got the modern day generation that just don't know how to live without it, and the 2-year-olds carrying iPads and knowing how to FaceTime, which is just kind of mad.
So I think that's a bit of it then. But 22-year-old brother, yeah, like me and him could be walking, and he could see that, and I could see that, and we'd have two different perspectives. Like to him, that would probably be normal. Whereas like to me, I'd be like, yo, that is weird. Even in this day and age, like
yeah, of course it's
mad.
weird.
Now don't get me wrong, if I'm driving and I got a tune, like for those who have me on Snapchat, Insta, like you'll see me obviously like having a bit of a karaoke, but like on road, just like
yeah,
it's
I know what you
mad.
mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so
like it's.
But I rate them. But whatever,
that's what I'm saying. Like
it's
it's a different world that we live in now. Like, but there's no stopping it. That's just the reality of it. Listen, even now, all this metaverse and it's all wild.
It's going.
And like, technology's just going more and more. Like, it's not stopping.
No, it's hundreds.
So we're going to be, our parents that we're laughing at, that's going to be us.
Facts.
Like, facts.
No, 100%.
Like, but at least, like I said, I think we kind of got the luckiest because we're just more, we're going to be able to grasp and understand things better because we went through that, like, that change of all of it.
Do you think we have a big responsibility? Because I was having the same comment. Who was I having this with, actually? That I was saying just like similar. Because I watched a few interviews and they were saying that if he was born like between this and that, the new generation, it might have been Getz, you know. I can't lie, because Getz speaks on it a lot. And he was like, you know, like, because he was outside, but at the same time, like, you know, he talks as well, he goes deep in it. And he was like, oh yeah, but the internet started and we got the internet and this, that, the other. And I was thinking, he's onto something here, you know. But I feel like we got a mad responsibility because you've not got children, right?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But when I do, something that I've always said, like, I have like one day a week, which is like family dinner night, no phones, cards. Like, I love a good game of cards.
I've heard.
Like, you know, like the old school, like Uno.
Yeah.
You know, bit of Monopoly with the fam, like that kind of stuff. Like that's the stuff that I remember from. Don't get me wrong, like I remember the days when we had internet and rushing home from school and being like on MSN and like all this like stuff like that and MySpace days and all of this. But if I actually think about like my family time was always spent like playing games. Whereas now I think kids have like their PlayStations and all that kind of stuff, which is what they do with like all of.
Got to pause that for a second. Have you not subscribed yet? The Sealey Network. Stop being tight. Just subscribe. Back to the episode. So yeah, I was gonna ask you about the state, what you think of today's culture and society. I know, mad.
That is such a broad subject.
It is a broad subject. It is a broad subject, I know. But as soon as that was kind of like touching on nostalgia, I thought I might be able to throw it in there. But what do you think of it as a whole? Like, in terms of... So I'll blend the two questions in. So the state of today's society and culture and family and relationships and raising children. What's your opinion? How do you think you're going to do it?
Honestly, I think our generation now's tapped. Like, it's actually done out.
Are you frightened to start a family? Not frightened, but are you quite wary?
I mean, I think everyone has their reservations, especially like living in London. Like, I think, like, in general, being a guy in London so difficult. Like, just in terms of like robberies and like all this, being a woman, like it can be dangerous. Like we live in a city where so much is kind of like happening, you know. So I think that's scary, but I think a lot of countries around the world that you go to, it's like that, unless you kind of move away from like westernized culture, which that's sort of something personally I think I could do because I'm like born and bred into it. Do you get what I mean? But yeah, like, I mean, there's so much to say about it. It's like, where do you even start? Like, I don't know. It's different. It's different to, like I said, the way that I grew up. I get it and I understand it. And I think there's so many benefits from it. Like everything, like I said, with social media and all that type of stuff, it's opened up so many more jobs, but then it's also taken away some jobs. And yeah, like definitely living in a more, I guess, creative world for sure. And like, I guess, more of an aware world. I actually think a lot of the things that are going on now always went on, but we just weren't accessible to see it.
Right.
Like now anything that happens, it gets posted on social media and, you know, but like everything was happening. We didn't have the media outlets to like actually receive the information, because obviously we'd have newspapers or like we'd have BBC News. Like now you don't need any of that. Like you've got the apps on your phone, you've got social media, you've like to see posts, tweets, pictures, whatever it is. So like information's just shared so much quicker. But I actually think a lot of the things have always been happening. We just weren't at like being able to see it firsthand, if that makes sense. But yeah, like as I was saying before about technology and stuff, it's scary where it can go and where it is going. Like I briefly mentioned earlier, like all the stuff of like the metaverse and things like that now, to me, like it's mental. Like, so you're telling me one day our kids are going to go to school but not actually go to school, they're going to sit there behind a VR and have their lesson like in a school in the metaverse? Like what? We used to like, we watch films where you see where they like put human beings in these cubicles to preserve their bodies, and like we used to watch that stuff and think it's mad. But then the more, if you actually start to dive in and like open your eyes and pay attention to what's going on, it's almost like it wouldn't shock me if that's where the world's going, because if they can create this online world and reality that you can basically live in, you can buy property and you can go to school in, you can work in, like you can dress yourself in, all this type of stuff, is that eventually what it's going to lead to? So that we just live on for longer because we preserve our bodies in the real time and then like live in an it's mad. Yeah. And I hope I'm not around to see that. No, I can't lie to you. And like in that sense, sometimes it gives me a reservation when you talk about things like having family and stuff, because I'm like, do I want to bring a child into this world, that the world could go in that direction? But then obviously you have hope that like us as human beings wouldn't want it to get there. But at the same like I don't know, it's tricky because you don't know what the future's going to hold. That's what, you know, you don't know if it's en route to that happening and there's a big rebellion and it doesn't happen, or you don't know whether it will be successful, or you don't know whether people will just start buying into it and thinking maybe that is a better way of living. Like everyone looks and thinks and views things differently and of what's best or whatever it is. But for me, like I don't want to be a Sims game. You know what I mean? Like I want to live in the real world. I want to have real relationships, personal experiences. Like, you know, like some of the most fun that I even have is sometimes just like sitting at home with my friends, chatting literally for hours, you know, like having conversations and things like that. Just real interaction, not through a TV screen and a phone and all that type of stuff. But that's what I said, like there's amazing things about it. Of course, you can be away. Like COVID showed us all that, okay, we couldn't go out and do the normal things that we were doing, but like, thank God, like we had laptops, we had TVs, we had phones to keep us entertained. You could still speak to your loved ones on FaceTime. I could see you, you know, if that had happened back when it happened, and when you look back on history and stuff and you look at their kind of moments in histories where they had like the plague or like the Spanish flu and like all this kind of stuff, they didn't have any of that. So like we're actually so spoiled. We don't realize it because when you're born into it, like, you know, we're moaning because we can't go out and just do the things that we always do, when in reality, like, we're actually still so spoiled because we have so much. Like, there shouldn't be a reason for us to get bored. You've got the internet, you can research stuff, you can learn stuff, you can learn new skills, you can watch movies, podcasts, you can film, you could start a career, you could do anything through technology now.
Yeah,
so
true.
that period should have taught all of us that, you know, like, we're so lucky because we have all of this. But really, most people are just complaining after a while that they were bored and they wanted to get out. And it's also that mentality of...
Can't win, innit?
Yeah, you can't. And like I said, it's also that mentality of when you're being told you can't do something, you want to do it even more.
Yeah.
You know, even people that I know that are quite, you know, introverted and stay at home and don't really like to go out and stuff a lot, they then even found themselves, I want to go out. And when I asked them, I was like, why? And they were like, I don't know, but like, I'm getting itchy being indoors now. And it's like, it's because you're being told you can't do something. Eventually it makes you think, I want to do it even more. You know?
Yeah. So I wanted to get your insight, really, because obviously we're moving into them times now, and a lot of, obviously, our generation now are moving into that space of family, kids, etc. So it's something I'm quite conscious of, something I always think about. So I thought I'd just get your insight and see what you thought about it. So obviously you've accomplished a lot of things in your career, and I'm sure you're going to go on to accomplish a lot more. What are your goals?
Well, like I said, I love music. I hope I continue to do music videos. I feel like I've gotten to that stage where, not that I've conquered the UK, but I've been doing it long enough that I've worked, whether it be in directing or producing, in the capacity with artists over here. I'd like to maybe go more over to the States and work there, because different ball game, different pool of artists, bigger. I mean, I couldn't live there, which is why I have spent so long before I've really kind of like dabbled over there, because it's just not for me. But yeah, so I hope keep doing music videos, keep just being able to really create, you know, like unique work and things that I want to do and like to do. And then my next step, hopefully, is moving into commercials. So dream job, fashion and beauty commercials. I told you before, I came from wanting to do fashion, directing happened, and I fell in love with that. But if I can merge the two things that I love, then like I've got my dream job. So it's difficult and it's not the easiest thing to do, but hopefully with like just the work and the determination and the route that I am on, like in my career, I will get there. And yeah, I also think about things now that I'm getting older eventually, like I would like to get married and I would like to have a family, and being a music video director and like making good money and being consistent, you have to be so consistent. Whereas obviously the money in the commercial world is bigger. So I could still be like a stay-at-home mom, but have my career and, you know, shoot a commercial a couple times a year, maybe shoot a music video here and there, and still be able to do what I love, but also be able to be at home raising my family. So yeah, as a woman in my field, it's different. We have to look at things, I guess, slightly different.
Amazing. Well, I wish you the best, and like I said, I'm sure
Thank you.
it will all come to fruition. We're all rooting for you. And finally, just some advice for the, that I know we kind of touched on it before, but for anyone in your field, young people in your field coming up, aspiring directors, producers.
Advice. Firstly, especially when you're young, I think be open to new experiences and trying new things, because it's the time to do it. Like if I didn't take that jump, I wouldn't be here where I was now, and I found something that I loved. And it's okay as well when you do that and you figure out it's not for you. But like I think a lot of the time we can get so set in thinking this is what I want to do from like young. And then sometimes people even end up in that and they realise it's actually not what they want to do or what they didn't enjoy, but then they feel like it's too late down the line. So I definitely feel like one of the first pieces of advice is like be open to like trying new careers like that might interest you. I'm not saying obviously go completely 180 and try a job that has no interest to you, but like other things that, you know, might just spark a little bit of interest because you don't know what can happen from it. And yeah, like I think for people, particularly in film, I think you definitely have to have thick skin. I think for anyone really in the entertainment industry, not even like just doing what I do, but like anyone in entertainment, it's not easy. Like, and especially more so now, I feel more and more people, like they like the idea of the entertainment industry. So everyone wants to be in it in some way or capacity, like somehow. So it's only becoming more and more competitive than it was. So yeah, like don't go into it for money, go into it because it's something that like you love to do and you want to do. And for directors in particular, I'm trying to like cover all the spectrums. For directors in particular, I just think believe in like your creativity and like your vision, and don't allow anyone else to kind of ever undermine you or like change your course, like knowing to stick to your vision and trust your like instincts and things like that, because we end up in the positions that we end up in for a reason.
Facts,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And I've got to be, for example, for me, I've got to be doing something right. And I've been doing those things off me. So I have to believe in that. Even when I second guess myself, I was talking about that whole situation earlier when I went to go shoot Peru, being so like nervous and like getting worried and second guessing myself. And really like I had nothing to worry about. I should have just believed and been confident in what I know that I can do and just do it, you know? And just like, don't compare yourself to everyone else and everyone else's like journey and things like that.
That's a big
like,
one. That's a
because
one.
I think it's such an easy thing to do now, in particular, especially with social media. You see people doing well, you see people doing money. I know everyone says it as well, like social media, people are only going to show you the wins. It's very rare that you find people that actually are vulnerable enough to show you the low points and, you know, the other things that they go through. So the majority of social media is the best of what you can see. And you've got to realize that you don't know people's stories. You don't know what they had to do to get there, or you know, and you should never wish or want that for yourself.
Facts.
Because you don't know what it took for them to get there. So I just think, take your time, do it at your own pace. Like, stop putting so much pressure. I think, especially when you get to a certain age, you start putting so much pressure on yourself. Even me, I do it. Like, it's just, I think, a normal reaction. I still feel like people will look at me and say, oh my God, like, you've done so amazing to get to where you've got to. And I don't feel like I've done enough, you know, because that's me putting pressure on myself, because I had goals and things that I'd hit and that I would do by X age or whatever it is, and I haven't done that. But I need to just pull myself back and remember I need to be proud of the things that I have done and the things that I have achieved, because I have worked hard for it. And like, they're all stepping stones. So even though I might not be where I thought I was going to be, that doesn't take away any of the achievements that I have made or that I have done. And celebrate your wins. I feel like that's something that people don't do enough. Like, a good thing happens and then like we call all our friends and our family, we're like, oh my God, like I did this. And then like within a day, it's like you almost just forget about it because you're thinking about the next achievement
one,
that you want to make. But like, just sometimes like take a step back and just really take in those like moments when like something happens, and like feel good about it and enjoy it, and like give yourself like a pat on the back to know that like you did that, you know? Because I feel like we always let other people praise us, but we don't praise ourselves enough. And I think if more people did that, you'd actually end up feeling so much better about yourself, and it will help you build like even more confidence in the things that you do.
I love that. Cold.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Questions done?
Just some hot ones now.
Oh.
just pop ones, We good.
Okay.
So we'll just finish up on some hot questions. Thank you again for that, because that was an amazing insight, and really appreciate your time. What's Gabby's favourite city and why?
That's hard. For what though?
It's got to be your favourite city. I don't know.
It's got to be London.
London, yeah?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Everywhere in the world that you've been and travelled?
No, like, don't get me, like, I've travelled to so many amazing places, but like, if I actually think about where else I'd want to live, I don't think I'd want to live anywhere else. So then I'd have to say London. Like, I think our only downfall in London is like the weather.
Yeah.
Like if we had like London in the summer, lit, everyone's happy, everyone's smiling, the energy's good, the vibes are good, you've got non-stop entertainment. Like, we're spoilt here as a city. Like we have so much going on. So if it wasn't for the weather, because I am such a sun baby, which is why I also need to get away, because I can't stand the weather. Bar that, it's got to be London.
Okay. Childhood idol?
My childhood idol? I don't think I have one.
No? So no one used that as a kid, you was like,
I wanted to be like my mum.
oh.
I know that sounds like so like cliche,
That's nice, isn't it?
but as in like, I think like when I was younger, I just like, I wanted to be like my mom when I grew up. Like, so I guess if that's what you'd call an idol.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Hats off to your mum for doing a good job. Best advice ever given to you?
These are really hard. I thought they were supposed to be like quick fire questions.
They're thought out. Everyone gets questions. Everyone gets them, though.
The best advice ever given to me.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I don't have an answer.
Okay.
Well, like, as in, there's nothing in particular by like one person.
Yeah.
Like, again, I think the only thing that I would say is my parents, like, I obviously come from a mixed background. My mom's black and Christian. My dad's white and Jewish.
Okay.
Like, can't get more opposite sides. And I very much grew up where it was like, take people for who they are. And as long as people are respectful and polite and like treat you well, like, then they're good people. All the other stuff doesn't matter.
100.
And like, I guess that's generally like my thing on life. Like, I don't look down on anyone else or think I'm better than anyone else or anyone's higher or like lower. Like, I just take people for how they are. So I guess that's probably like the core of like my personality and like who I am. And that comes from them. So I guess that in itself is a piece of advice, but that's more of how it shaped my character rather than like, I guess like a tip, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand. Who would you love to well, I know you mentioned Beyonce earlier, but I'll ask anyway. Who would you like to collaborate with in the future, or who's been your best collaboration up to date?
Dream jobs in music, Beyonce. In commercials, when I get there, will be like a Chanel Christmas advert, like something like that, or like a Dior Christmas advert.
Wicked. That'd be sick.
That what I've worked with so far. I don't want to answer that because it's hard. I told you War's my favourite video.
Yeah, you did.
And I would definitely say like Ed Sheeran's been a highlight.
Yeah.
Just because of like who he is and like everything. But yeah.
Okay. What skill would you love to master?
What skill would I love to master? I don't know. I don't think you can ever master anything, you know.
You don't think?
No, especially not in my industry. Like, film is so big and so wide.
Maybe outside of your field, though.
I don't know.
No?
I honestly don't know, because outside of like my career, like I have hobbies, but like I wouldn't say any of them are anything that like I have to master. They're just things that I do because I enjoy to do, but I don't need to be the best at doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like I said, in film, I think it's such a broad spectrum. You can have directors that have been doing this 50 years of that. They're always going to still be learning off someone somehow, which is, even when I work, I pay attention to like lighting crew, camera crew, like styling, everything. I'm always like trying to like soak things in and like learn other things, because I think that can only make me a better director. but I wouldn't say that I want to master directing, because I don't think you can.
There you have it.
Yeah.
When are you at your most happiest?
When I'm at my most happiest, I don't know, quite a few things. Like, obviously, just the obvious answer, which is like with my family, my friends. Again, going back to COVID, I think those things happening really made you appreciate those things a lot more. And I'm very grateful. I have a very close knit like friendship group. Like, my friends are like my family. And then I love what I do.
Yeah.
So I genuinely get to go and be happy and get paid to be happy.
That's it. That's the goal.
And traveling. Like, if I won the lottery tomorrow, like, I'd just travel. I actually think I'd give everything up and I'd literally just travel. Like, I think being able to go to different countries and experience different cultures, like, and like just nature and like everything, and like seeing different landscapes and buildings and all this type of stuff. Like, I think that's such like a beautiful thing. So definitely like traveling is up there with, that's actually probably number one.
Traveling,
yeah. Traveling.
Okay, your proudest moment?
Such hard questions. My proudest moment, as in my career or in my life?
In life, career. You answer them in how you see fit.
Okay, so when I actually finished shooting Peru, so remember I told you we had to go to New York?
Yeah.
I was actually really didn't want to go to New York.
Okay.
Partly because of the reasons that I told you about, but also I had actually shot my first passion project commercial in London for the clothing brand Benja.
Okay.
And
big.
They were basically, and they were launching their line in Harvey Nichols, and Harvey Nichols were going to put it all over the front screens of Harvey Nichols and the stores, right? And they were doing like a launch for when it all happened. And the day they picked to shoot Peru was the day of the launch. And obviously I was nagging to my friend, being like, please, can we do it in London? He was like, there's nothing that I can do. Like, we have to go to New York, like, unless you don't want the job. And I was obviously like, I can't miss out on an opportunity like that because it's so big. And obviously I can't turn around to the label and be like, well, I want to be here because of a passion project that I shot, because they're just not going to care. They just want the job done. So I had to miss out on that. Thankfully I had like people that went that like sent me loads of like videos and stuff like that. But yeah, that day shooting Peru and just like how well everything turned out, I remember I got back to the hotel room and I was literally like where the hotel room was, like I was proper like looking out on like the skyline of New York City, like in my room. And I was literally just sitting there being like, wow, like what a day just for me, like in my career, that I just shot one of the biggest artists in the world, and on the same day, a passion project, not even like a paid project, something that like I had gone and put like my time and my effort, my connections, like money, like all that type of stuff in to make happen, was on the windows of like one of the biggest superstores in like London, which is obviously where I grew up. So like that moment, just sitting there, like I was so happy. Like it was just such like a good moment. And also I'd been on like a roller coaster, as I said, like I lost my mentor not that long before that, who was also probably the closest thing to a father figure that I had since I lost my dad. And my life had been like this. It was like a roller coaster for like a few months, you know. It was like I had a high, then I lost him and I went low, and then like Peru came and like my career was on a high, and I felt he should have been the person next to me experiencing it. He should have been the one DPing and like physically shooting it for me, because he would have been that person. So yeah, like I guess in that moment I was not only just proud for myself, but like I was kind of also proud for him, because I know if he was here he'd be like so proud of, like, I'm sad that he doesn't get to see it firsthand or be a part of it, but like I felt in that moment that if he was here he would be.
Yeah, I'm sure he was with you in spirit anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
This energy's mad, you know. Imagine my next question, your biggest mentor.
Oh, that's who it was, Mr. Luke Liggins.
Yeah, wicked. And what does success mean to you?
What does success mean to you? I just want to be able to do what I love, and I was very fortunate growing up in terms of like, I guess my lifestyle. So like from young, like I got a job when I was 16 and my dad literally looked at me and was like, you don't need to get a job at 16. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I actually think because I grew up in money, I actually did the opposite. I wanted to work hard because I always knew that my parents aren't going to be here forever, which is actually a really bleak mentality to have at such a young age. But for whatever reason, I had it. I always thought they're not going to be around forever to keep providing me this lifestyle. So I need to start now because I want to be able to sustain the lifestyle that they gave me, if not even like better, you know? And even though like I'm not a very flash person in terms of like jewelry and designer and things like that, I definitely like to live comfortably. I like to travel, like I said, a lot. That's something that like when I make money, I want to travel. So yeah, like I've always, I guess success for me is just being able to sustain a lifestyle that like I'm happy with. And then as I was saying earlier on in the interview, more so, firstly being able to leave work behind that I've created forever, technically. I mean, as long as the internet exists, my work's gonna technically be out there.
Yeah.
So that's something that's amazing in itself, that I get to like leave, I guess, bits of me like in the world even after I'm gone. And then yeah, as I was saying, to be able to just inspire others to either end up doing what I'm doing or end up doing whatever they were doing off the back of something that they learnt from me, or just seeing my story or whatever it is. I think that in itself is
success.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's not always about the money. The money's definitely a pro and it's a bonus, but I wouldn't advise anyone to go into this career because you want money, because it actually takes time before you even get to the money, and then it's difficult to sustain and everything. That's kind of anyone, even like musicians and stuff. I say that all the time. They have it hard. They have it really hard because you can go like this and then fall flat in a second. You're better off going into like business, into like banking. You know what I mean? You're going to have a paycheck that comes in every month. Like you're going to have all your support, your insurance, your pension, all of that. You're making good money, living a good life, security. You know, so if money is really what people are chasing, they're actually the jobs that more so, if like long term, they're actually the jobs that provide that. When you start going into creative, even though the sound of working for yourself, being an entrepreneur, like
it's cool, sounds cool.
Sounds cool, and like I get to work for myself and I don't have to answer anyone. And don't get me wrong, those things are all true. But there's so much other stuff that, like I said, people don't want to talk about, which is the struggle of not always knowing when your next paycheck's going to come in. You don't know if you're going to have your high and you're going to drop off. Like you might drop off and then you've got to go find something else to do because people might have just moved on from that stage of you. You know what I'm saying? So like it's got its amazing glamorous things about it, but then it also doesn't. So
these are all key points that you're bringing up. Like people need to hear this, do you know what I'm saying? So no, thanks for that. Finally, have you got any questions for me?
Ooh. Okay. Do I have any questions for you?
Yeah.
Did you always want to be a presenter?
No.
And how, like, so why?
Why presenting?
Yeah.
Um,
and especially a show like this.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, presenting such like a broad spectrum, you could be presenting anything, radio, TV, whatever, on any subject. Like, why did you want to explore? It's like technically like people that entrepreneurs or like open up their own businesses.
Yeah, people within the fields that I have interest in, so sport, music, entertainment, business, even beauty to some extent, to be honest. And then just, again, not so much, oh, give us the highlights and all the great things you've done, but as you've shown today, like the real, like the other side of the struggles and so on, because I feel like the mentality is important on the journey and to, you know, to where people want to get to, that it's not really showcased. I mean, there's a lot of things now, but when I was growing up, there wasn't. So I've always had a passion for that. I like conversation. I feel like I learn a lot as well that way. And yeah, I'm good at it. So no, I see like I see myself. I do see myself like yourself. Like you said, in commercials. I do see myself on TV, radio. Like my mum's always sort of banged on at me from young, to be honest. But I never really seen it. Kind of just fell into it, and loved it, to be honest. So, and I explained in this story as well from before. When I finished playing, Rio Ferdinand, like he like started like this 5 meg thing. I don't know if you remember it.
I don't really follow sport like that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, he started it, and it was at a time where I was kind of at a crossroads where I was kind of done with ball, and I was like, nah, but what can I get into? 'Cause I knew I had more to offer. And then I seen that, and I was like, that's it. I'm gonna do that. And luckily, through ball, I had a good network, had good friends who could help me get started, and they did, and here we are. So.
So is this? Would you say this is like your dream job now?
Yeah, 100%. I could do this. I could do this till tomorrow, easy. Well, that's like good. Until the rest of the days, but good. Yeah, I don't get tired. It's easy. So yeah. Thanks. No, that was wicked. Gabby Kingsley, everyone. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciated it. Your story's amazing, and we're all rooting for you into your next step as well.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Guys, yeah, that's it, man. Remember, share, like, subscribe. Tell your friend to tell your friend and your friend and everyone else. And yeah, that's it, man. If you don't watch it now, then you'll watch it later, because that's how energy works. And we're out. Season 2, let's go.
Word is the Sealey, what? It's the Sealey Show.